Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Money Hungry Mama. I am so excited because we have somebody to talk about budgeting today. This is Miss Erika. Erika, take it away.
Hey guys, yes, my name's Erika Avena. I'm calling in from Orange, California, and I am the founder of Prosperity Planning, where I work with mamas and other women entrepreneurs who are really just wanting to create a budget that works for their family. So, working moms who don't have a lot of time, you're always balancing multiple schedules and deadlines, and no one really wants to sit down and look at 3 months of bank statements. Like, we just don't have time. So, I've worked with different clients on building out systems, whether that's using a budgeting app, good old cash envelope system. I mean, really, it's whatever works for your family, but having those key check ins so that way you can make budgeting work for your family. And then setting up those financial goals. So a lot of people feel shame and guilt when they start to look at credit card debt and, things that nobody was really taught about money. So overall financial literacy and really just to put a game plan together. So how do you start to tackle the debt that you have and then create financial goals for your family to really get ahead in life and buy your first home, plan for your first little one, and then be able to enjoy retirement.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think I'm really excited about this conversation because I feel like I have been dying to have somebody to come on that's like has financial advice and things. So I am super pumped. How did your budgeting journey begin?
Yes, so let's see. And talking about money was not a conversation at our dinner tables growing up.
Mhm.
So, really, it was when I had my first corporate job. I worked in banking and I had a branch manager explain the 401k to me. So, I was 26 years old many years ago, but if I would have never had that conversation, I would have been leaving money on the table. So thankfully, somebody else trickled that in. And then the whole, 2008 financial crisis really was a big, like, eye-opening experience. I worked in the mortgage industry. Our whole industry was collapsing. So I had to transition to get a real job. And at that point, I realized, okay, it's time to figure out just the basics of budgeting. And then from there, trying to figure out, okay, I have some student loans. I, paid most of my way through college and got lots of scholarships. And through that, banking experience, our bank was being bought out. So I went back to school to get my master's. And I just, again, realized like nobody else is doing this for you. And if you want to get ahead in life, you have to have a financial plan. So it was a lot of self learning and then looking to mentors and others to guide me on some best practices. But even, fast forward to when I met my husband and just having those financial conversations. We did a premarital counseling, we did the Dave Ramsey CD. And just again to be able to say, okay, you were raised one way, and whatever your background is and how your family deals with money, it has such an imprint on how you will deal with money in the future. So just being able to learn, there's podcasts, there's YouTube, there's so many Instagram accounts with different financial coaching. So just finding someone that you can trust, have open conversations, and then be able to go back and meet with your significant other and just start figuring out who's the spender, who's the saver, what are some financial goals you guys are looking to achieve together.
My gosh. I think it's so true. It was never a conversation at the dinner table. I think it was always hush hush, like don't tell, like, like it's almost like you don't want to talk about money in front of the kids. Like it was one of those conversations that you're supposed, like back then, it was like we need to have these behind closed doors. And I think now, as all of us are raising our kids, I think it's become very aware how much we didn't know. Like I remember sitting down to do my taxes for the first time, and I was like, Dad, what is this? Like I don't even understand what why is there letters and numbers? Like, what is happening? So I think it's so true. But what I love about, a lot of your posts and things that you say is that it's basically like for us to embrace the mindset and that it's not our fault and it's not like a negative thing. It's more of changing your mindset to be able to understand these things. So now how do you kind of coach and get people to kind of change that mindset from, oh my gosh, I don't feel like doing this. Everything is just a chaotic mess to, okay, let's sit down and like, let's actually start putting it together.
Yeah, so I always recommend for clients to start by reading the book, The Psychology of Money. And if you
I
don't have
have
time to
that.
read, listen to, podcasts, audiobooks, any of that type, because it all starts with your money mindset. So in working with clients, I generally find that people are spending money when they are stressed out, when they're bored, life events happen. And so these are triggers. So the first step is to figure out what is triggering you to go out and spend money. And then how do you change that behavior? So there is a lot of like soul searching and trying to see what is causing it. But when I first start working with clients and we try to figure out what are your top 3 spending categories, some people don't know. And for others, it's quick, like it's always mortgage, childcare, daycare, utilities, car payments, and food.
Yeah.
Costs are just so expensive right now. So again, just having the awareness. So if you don't even know what your categories are and how much you spend each month, that's like the first step is figuring out what it is and then coming up with that game plan. Are there like those sneaky subscriptions that, you cut cable to try to save money, but now you have 10 apps that, $10 or $20, so all those things add up. But some people forget that they subscribe to something or they have a monthly fee. And so until you're really looking at the big picture, and for some that can be overwhelming. And that's where, my coaching services and having that accountability partner to really meet you there and then help you get through it. Because again, it's like you're peeling the onion, but you're seeing all of your categories and things that people don't account for, like the once a year, if it's home insurance, car insurance, things that like you're paying DMV registration. And then when you factor it into your budget, it's like now you're back to that feeling of paycheck to paycheck. And how are you ever going to get ahead? Well, until you see the real numbers, it's hard to make a plan. But what I have seen where people are successful is when they create financial goals. So celebrating the small wins. And that's why when people are paying off debt, the snowball method works because you're paying the smallest card balance first. It gives you that momentum to keep going to the next. So again, it's just strategy, mindset, coming up with a game plan, and then taking it little piece by piece instead of saying like, okay, now we're not going out to eat. If you make it too restrictive, you'll never follow it and you'll hate budgeting.
Oh my gosh. I feel like this is so much of the same advice when people are saying about like losing weight. Like, I feel like it's like hand in hand because it does seem like a lot of this is about mindset. And it's like, if you're sitting down all of a sudden and actually starting to budget, it's like, oh man, I really kind of, it's also, turning inward. It's like, okay, well, you spent this money and now you have to kind of look at where it all went. And that's the scary part. It's kind of like, oh, well, I don't really want to see all the things that I. So that is really funny. It's literally the same thing, like the small treating yourself too, because I get it. If you're sitting here and you're like, okay, I did it 1 month. I was like, I'm never going to buy coffee this whole entire month. And by like the third week, I hated my life. And I was like, this stinks. And then my one friend was like, okay, well, why don't you just do like on Fridays, you get to buy yourself coffee. So it doesn't
Yeah.
seem like this like terrible, horrible thing.
Yes, and I love that. Like, still treat yourself. I have a personal care line item. So I'm not getting my hair done like every month, right? But that line item can cover hair or pedicures or a massage or a facial. And you rotate the things in. So that way, even on my calendar, when I'm looking at the week, it's like, where did I plan a little bit of me time? And that me time could be going to the coffee shop by myself with a book, or it's going for a walk without the kids this time. So it doesn't have to be something that always costs money. But again, it's just checking as moms, we can only give when our cup is full. And a lot of times we are running on empty, depleted, multitasking, like, literally thinking about the business, then my
Yeah.
day job and the little ones, and then what's for dinner. And so if I'm doing all of that in one day, it can become overwhelming. So I like to meal plan on Sundays. My husband and I look at our content, like our calendar for our work week, our kids' activities, and we pick the days that we're eating out. Like, this is definitely going to be a pizza night because there's no way that I can do all of these things. And
Yeah.
then other nights, it's, crock pot, something that's going to give us leftovers. So we have the next day covered. But again, it's like, I'm not thinking about dinner every single day of the week. That's a Sunday task, and it gives us the
Smart.
freedom to plan our eating out nights.
My goodness, that is so smart. I like always say, "Oh, I wish I figured it out." Like even tonight, we're recording this podcast, and my husband had already texted right before I sat down. What are we doing for dinner? I have no idea. I literally didn't think about it. So that is like so smart to do. So now a lot of your content goes into paying off debt. What is your go-to approach when you're coaching someone who's drowning in credit card debt?
So the first thing, just like starting with the budgeting piece, is the awareness. So I always have everyone give me all of the information. So I like to know the card, the balance, the interest rate, the minimum payment. And I literally just put it in a spreadsheet. So if you did nothing different and continued to pay minimum payments, these 4 cards or these 10 cards, all of this debt will take you 25 years to pay off. And I show them everything. So from total interest, the total number of years. And then I show them if we take the smallest balance first. So using the snowball method approach. So the first card that has, let's say, a $2,000 or a $5,000 balance, you pay that one off first. So if we're able to find any extra money in the budget, instead of just paying the minimum payment, let's pay, an extra $20 or an extra $50, whatever amount you were able to cut out from somewhere in the spending, apply it to that first card. And then when you're able to pay off that first card, you take that minimum payment and any extra that you were able to do and apply that to the second card. And that is that snowball method. So it will show someone that all the debt that they have, regardless of the amount, it's the time frame. So if we're able to work on this, you can then take debt that was going to take you 25 years to pay off and pay it off in 10 or 12 years. So that's where people will see the light, right? It's going to take a little bit of sacrifice. It does take this game plan, but it's also helping them to see, like, a lot of people buy concerts and vacations on that buy now, pay later. So
Yeah.
whether that's Affirm and making small payments, but they don't realize that's still debt. They're still charging you interest. And I've heard recently that that's going to start being reported on your credit report. So again, it's stuff that, like, you don't think about when especially when you're young and you're in your 20s. And, you walk on college campus, they give you credit cards. Nobody teaches you how to use them. And just because you're swiping and it's so easy to spend the money, but again, realizing that you have to pay it back. And, the $1,000 iPhone or $1,500 new phone every 2 years, it's like when you're financing it, it really is going to cost you double. Instead of just saying, can I afford this? Do I need this? Or what sacrifices can I make to not have to put this on a credit card?
Oh my gosh. I mean, that's so true. The statement that you just said, like, they really do target college kids. Like, that's where I made the most mistakes in my life was when I had no idea what I was doing. And it was like, oh, I got a card. And now here I am with 3 kids,
Yeah.
having to fix that. And it's frustrating because I feel like we are set up for such failure when it comes to budgeting and money and all of it. And it's almost like they want us to fail because then they know that we're going to be paying that back forever. So this is such a great conversation. Thank you so much. What are some of your most creative ways that you help people kind of bring money back into their budget?
Well, the first thing is just seeing where you're spending, right? So
Yeah.
being able to categorize everything.
Mhm.
And that's generally when people are saying, like, in our 7-day financial reset challenge, we have a group chat. And I've had girls say, like, oh, I canceled these 3 subscriptions. Like, we don't need Apple TV and Netflix and Disney. So
Mhm.
again, seeing where you're spending is generally the first step. I had another gal who had just had a little one. And so they were using like meal delivery services and they were fine with it because, again, it was the convenience. But
Mhm.
time had passed and they weren't using it anymore. So canceled those subscriptions. So again, it's just figuring out what season of life you're in. Yes, pay for convenience and service whenever you can or you need it. But then when you're not using, certain items, if you don't see it in your budget, you won't even know to, like, where do you begin? And even things like utilities, cell phone bills, auto insurance, calling all of your vendors or, the places that you're already spending money
Mhm.
and tell them, like, hey, I'm going to go look for a new cell phone vendor. I spend too much money. Sometimes they give you $20 off. AT&T just reduced our internet plan and then they sent me a $100 gift card for just retaining me as a customer. So, little things like that. It's just checking in, auditing all of your spending. Call the places where, you have to pay for utilities. They're not going to give you a discount, but your internet, your cell phone, any providers like that. And I have little ones too. And I'm realizing this summer between gymnastics and swim classes and it's all the extras, the summer camps, it can quickly add up. So
For
being
sure.
able to say, like, this is what we're spending, this is what we can afford, these are the extras. So if we're going to transition to swim, then I'm going to cut back on something else. And again, it's just different seasons, and you can have these conversations with kids. I'm a huge advocate of teaching your kids because, especially, we weren't taught. And so the more that you can start to teach the next generation. And our kids are growing up in this technology. Amazon delivery comes next day. Like everything is at your fingertips to be delivered, right? But there's a
Yep.
cost
Yep.
associated with that. And so finding things to do that don't cost money. So visit the library, go to the park, have a picnic at the beach. It's different things. And you're really teaching your kids early on the value of money.
Yeah, I think that's something that, our son, he's turning 8 in August, and we started early and explaining to him, like, he wanted a PS5 so badly, just like on a random Tuesday. And I was like,
Yeah.
no, bud. I'm like, that's $500. And literally, he was like, that's only 500 because he watches these YouTubers with all this money. And I was like, dude, $500. And I broke it down hourly, like how much we have to work to get $500. And immediately was like, oh, never mind.
Good
And
for
I was
you
like, yeah,
that you did
I
that.
was so proud of him. I was like, yeah, like mommy and daddy have to work this amount of hours to be able to pay that. And he was like, oh, forget it.
Yep. That's amazing. So just think that one thing that you taught him. And I work with clients and I'll tell them the same thing, right? Figure out if you're debating whether buying something,
Mm-hmm.
wait 24 hours. Don't ever make that impulse buy
Mm-hmm.
decision. Give yourself some time and then calculate. Yeah, if this item costs $100 and I make $20 an hour,
Mm-hmm.
it takes me 5 hours of work to get this. 24 hours later, do you still want the item? And again, that's all a mindset thing. So
It
once you
is.
realize what things cost, how much of your working time or the trade-offs, I really want this item. I'm going to buy it for myself, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut back on eating out. Another big thing is knowing your social calendar. So as moms, we have little ones, we're planning birthday
Mm.
parties, the regular holidays come around. And so knowing those months that are going to be more expensive, how can you offset the month before, the month after, and really just looking and seeing, when am I buying gifts for other kids' birthdays? And once your
Mm-hmm.
kids are in school, then you're invited to, tons of
Yeah.
kid birthday parties. It just never ends. And so instead of constantly feeling overwhelmed by it, it's just coming up with a plan and then give yourself that miscellaneous line item. For
Yep.
some families, it may be $50. For others, it may be more. But having a line item where your spending can fluctuate for the unexpected is always key.
For sure. And I'm going to share this tip too because I just kind of started doing it this year that the kids are getting a little bit older. I don't know if anybody has looked at a grocery store lately, but it's $8 for a card. So I have started making my kids like hand make cards for their friends. And that's just like one way to kind of save the $8 because then all of a sudden, you go and buy this 3-year-old a birthday present and now you're spending $8 to $10 on a card, which is mind blowing to me. I was like, that is so much money for a card.
I love it. We do the same thing. So I encourage my 6 year old
Yeah,
to decorate and design. And it's a great opportunity for them to, start practicing writing and
for
throw
sure.
some stickers in there and just get creative with making the card. And then, yeah, I just throw it in there because the cards get thrown away anyways.
Every time. Every time. Like, I'm the same way. Like, I'll always like tell family and friends, like, unless you're writing a very handwritten note, you can always just like throw your name in a bag and I'll
Yeah,
understand who it's from. Like, don't think you need to spend the money on the $10 card because you don't. Oh
totally
my God.
agree.
So I'm going to do a little bit of a shift. So now I want to start talking about you as a business owner. So I was checking out all of your stuff, which is fantastic for everybody listening. She's going to give you her Instagram handle and everything at the end. But you started making these a toolkit and you have it for early access. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I realized early on when I was deciding, am I going back to work? Am I staying home? First of all, as moms, the mom guilt is real.
Huge.
Postpartum, two under two or two under three, like that is just overwhelming in itself.
Mhm.
So just realizing that like we have skill sets and whatever it is, whatever you're good at, not everyone likes budgeting and numbers. Some people are very artistic and they start Etsy and, they're making shirts and candles and whatever it is that you're good at, I highly encourage you just get started. Take that messy action and don't worry about pretty websites and pretty images. I had no idea what I was doing, but the mom community and the entrepreneurs, women supporting women is just so amazing. You just get embraced by people willing to help and connect. And
Mhm.
so that's what I did. I just literally got started and then was doing one-on-one coaching, which I still do and I love. But I also realized I only have so much time. So I can't help everyone. And I would have to be like kind of picky and choosy which customers I could take on. And then when I'm like pushing people out, I'd have a wait list going. And then I realized, okay, it's time to put my best practices in a toolkit. What do I do when I first meet with customers? So, money mindset, start with a budget. How do you track
So
expenses?
smart.
We tackle debt, financial goals. And then I always include meal planning because that is generally
Mhm.
a big, line item for many families. And again, as moms, we're busy, and
Mhm.
whether you work your day job, you're a stay-at-home mom raising kids, whatever it is that you're doing, or you have a passion project that you're fully invested in, we don't have a lot of free time. So I've put together the toolkit. It's a $20 guide, very affordable. So
Yeah.
again, people can get started on their own. So think of it as like DIY, all my best practices in this toolkit. And then I'm here and available. This is what I've learned over 3 years. I love being a guest on podcast and really trying to figure out myself if that's something I can take on and either launch a podcast or
So
just
fun.
be, out there on YouTube. There's so many different social
Oh,
media channels too. Instead of it being overwhelming, I try to just like my new tagline is like just be fully focused. Where's the best use of my time? So when I'm working with clients, fully connected with them.
mhm.
When I'm able to take a step back and say, okay, how can I scale? Where do I do some partnerships or some co-branding opportunities? When am I going to do an in-person workshop versus a group training? And then, sometimes I'm planning 3 months out. And so things just have to get pushed out to September or October. And
Mhm.
that's okay. And again, it's like, give yourself grace to take those days off or pretend like you're advising your friend, right? Like, what would I tell my bestie
Yeah.
about what they should do next? And then it gives you, like, you're rested, you have a new perspective to say, how do I jump back into my business and focus on the things that I really enjoy doing? And when is it time to hire a social media manager, a virtual assistant? There's so many people who have different skills that those may not be your strong suits. So hire those services out and just find your partners that you can really refer to. And again, back to women supporting women.
Love it. No, it's so true. It's so true. And just like listening to how you just said that, I just want to make note of it, guys, because I'm also that way too. It's like you want to do everything at once and you can't, you physically can. Coming from somebody who literally sat down to figure out this whole entire business plan, you can't. It's impossible. And eventually, like, Erica just said she's going to maybe start a podcast. She's going to maybe start going on YouTube, but you don't need to do it all at once. And I'm so happy that you just said that because I needed to hear it myself too. So thank you for that. That was so great to share. So now you have this tool. So now you have this toolkit. Now you have your 7-day reset. Now, you have very beautiful content. What do you think plays the biggest part in bringing in your clientele?
My goodness. I would say showing up authentically because you can have this fancy, again, perfect website, perfect content, but what people really want to hear is the real behind the scenes, right?
Mhm.
So sometimes I'll show like my kitchen. No, not all the dishes are washed or, playing with my kids and I'm like, yeah, the chicken that I defrosted, not getting to it tonight or my meal plan looks great for the week, but I forgot to defrost the chicken. So now I have frozen chicken that I cannot
Oh
cook.
my gosh.
So it's like giving yourself grace, right? No matter what you've planned, just
Mhm.
being authentic and showing up saying that, I'm a mom too. Overwhelming things happen. The kids get sick. I can't tell you how often between the months of November and March, someone in my family will get,
Oh,
some kind of illness, right?
of
And then it
course.
goes through our whole household. So, again, just giving yourself grace that no matter what you plan, it's okay to just roll with it and,
Mhm.
take those audibles and be able to be flexible because, again, your kids are learning from you and they see how you're responding to the pressure, the stress, and all of the things that life brings us. So, yeah, I think just showing up being your authentic self.
That is beautiful. It's so true. And I feel like that is such a learning curve for so many people because we don't want to show our imperfections, especially like when you're trying to be a voice in a space. It could be really scary to be like, oh my gosh, like my house isn't perfect in the background, or, but I love that in this day and age, it's becoming normal. Like, for a couple of years for social media too, it was like you looked at everything perfect. And I think that's where overconsumption came in because you would see this woman with this beautiful house and everything had little baskets and all these things. And then it was like, oh, I should go buy those baskets. But I'm going to tell you, if you're not the type of person to keep up with those baskets were just a waste of money.
Yes, and they'll be
Guilty.
collecting dust and
Yep.
taking space shortly.
No, 100% guilty. So, besides Instagram, are you on any other social media?
After Instagram, I believe a lot of the feed posts on Facebook, but not very active there. And then we're just starting to learn YouTube, but that's it.
This makes my heart so happy. Did you guys hear that? She's only on one thing, really. So let's keep that in mind. So now, when we're talking about Instagram, Reels post stories, which one is getting you the most engagement from followers into clients?
Oh my goodness. I'd say the reels, but then I also on the stories, that's where I'm able to get into people's DMs or they're messaging me more specific. So I'm able to have, those one-on-one conversations or answer questions. I do a live every Thursday. So that's kind of like the
Oh,
Ask Me Anything series. And a lot of people will, share some questions or topics that they're interested in learning more. And from there, I just, as if I was answering or coaching that one person, I take those topics and then just, say how I would handle it. And so, again, the stories give me a lot of topics to then break down in my Thursday lives.
oh my gosh. I love that you do a live every single week. I did my first one on Sunday and I freaked out. I was like, it was 30 seconds long. I was like, this is too much. This is too much. Do you have any like tips for that?
Yeah, so the first couple ones, yes, they're going to be a little overwhelming. Maybe have a paper with some bullet
Oh,
points.
smart.
Like I generally ask Chat GPT to create some talking points on whatever the topic is, and then
Smart.
I give it my spin or my input. But again, it gives you that opportunity to like have somewhat of an outline. The other thing I like doing is the hands-free stories. So again, same thing. You're kind of going live, but you don't have to post it. So you can rewatch it before you officially push the button. But if you were to check mine out today, I was doing my makeup
I'm gonna.
today. Yeah. And it's hilarious because you're talking, right? But I'm actually looking at the mirror, doing my makeup, which again, it's like you're just showing up authentically to
Mhm.
your followers. So I definitely feel that they want to see your face. And that has been my biggest growth that I have seen. My bestie is working on her marketing degree and she started helping me in April. And she told me I needed to put my face out there. And I was like, no, I cannot do these, video lives and I can't do it. And she encouraged me to go do a branding session. And that $250 was the best spend because
Wow.
you feel so confident, right? You have a
Yeah.
new outfit on, you have hair and makeup done. And so we probably got 150 photos out of that branding session and some video. And she's just been, going crazy helping me create the content because, again, that's her strong suit. So
Yeah.
before she would say, do you approve this post? Now I'm just like, hey, you've learned, the basics of what I'm coaching on. And I love your style and how you create all this content. So, yes, please feel free. But if I wouldn't have had that to say, you are an expert at what you're speaking about. Now you just need the
Yep.
confidence to get on camera. Again, it comes with practice. So, you have to take those at bats to get more comfortable and confident and then show up every week because you're showing your authentic self. And even if sometimes you mess up on a word, or it always trips me up when the people come on and they like give an emoji like, hi, I'm here. And so I greet them. I go, oh, hi, Danette, or hi, Joanna. And then I'm like, okay, where am I at in my spiel? But again, just remembering that, like, yes, social media, there's pros and cons to it, but as you're growing your business, it's okay to show up like with makeup, without makeup, and especially for the mom community. Like,
Mhm.
if I can encourage somebody else to really be thinking about their financial future for their family, or starting a small business and seeing somebody else just figuring it out as I go. Then I feel like I've done my part.
So beautifully said. So beautifully said. Because that's what this whole community here is about. It's, authentically being ourselves as moms and helping other moms do the same exact thing. I love it so much. So, what is your next big milestone for prosperity planning?
Oh my goodness. So, because I'm a numbers girl, I am constantly looking at my revenue and growth. So, exactly how many customers do I need on recurring revenue? So, not just like, hey, they're going to buy the toolkit one time and then,
Mhm.
I have to keep selling hundreds of toolkits. So, it's my coaching clients. Is there some opportunity for consulting? So, I work with some small businesses on their finances as well. And then I'm able to refer to, so my friend that has social media marketing, I'll give you her social as well. It's
Yeah.
called lion.social. And again, it's just all about collaboration. So trying to figure out what that number is. I'd love to leave my day job and just really have the financial freedom. So my husband and I, we have this vision board that I've had since 2023, and I've checked off everything except this short-term rental. So getting into our first short-term rental is definitely going to help us for tax purposes, but also just creating generational wealth. And so once we lock in that deal, it will take up such a huge chunk of my income. And then, my goal for prosperity planning is to replace 50% of my day job. And so once I hit that number, it's like, oh, we're done, because we already know so there's a calculation you can do. It's called FIRE, Financial Independence, Retire Early. You take your annual expenses. So for some people that may be 10,000 a month, be 120,000 for the year. And then you multiply that by 25. So for some families, it could be like $1 million, and for others it's 3 million. And that's the nest egg you need for your overall retirement. When you have that
Wow.
number invested, you can live off 4% of that, and that basically is the income that you need. It covers your expenses. That's like a long-term goal, but we are definitely fully focused on what that means, what that does for our family. Having just the flexibility to, not that we don't want to work, we love working, we love consulting, but it's working on our time. Having flexibility as working parents, that you want to be there for the kids' events at school and drop off and pick up. And it just breaks my heart when I hear like kids have to get dropped off at 7 in the morning or 6 in the morning because people work 8 to 5 or 9 to 5, like set office hours, where
Mhm.
then you add a commute and you're not seeing your kids until such a late hour in the day, where you're literally picking them up, feeding dinner, maybe doing an activity, they play sports. It's like bath and go to bed. And so
Sure.
being able to work from home and have some more flexibility where we can be off at 3 or 4, plug back in at night, and really build a business that works for us. That's really financial independence for our family.
Oh my gosh. Learned so many things. That was amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's so important for us to know, like sometimes you're thrown into it. Like there's been a couple of moms like myself that were thrown into, okay, like my hustle is now becoming my business. This was not part of the game plan, but here we are, right? But if you're going in it with your mindset of having a choice, I love that whole fire and trying to figure it out. So guys, like if you're listening and you're like, okay, I don't know when is the time, go do your fire.
Yeah.
And I like that it's called fire. That's cool.
Yes. Yeah. It's like, it's a calculation, right? And again,
Mhm.
your expenses may change, and maybe, when you're ready for retirement, your home's paid off. But look at the cost of food, and everything else is constantly
Mhm.
increasing. So just
Everything.
the end goal number. And again, it's just awareness. Like we
Yep.
talked about your budget and your debt, retirement. It's the same thing. It's knowing what you're going to need to be able to live the rest of your life. And I recently did a story on women and like just financial literacy. And it's like 80% of women outlive their husband. So women need to really learn how to budget, how to do the banking, how to just know the whole financial picture, because for the most part, you're going to outlive your husband.
Yeah, no, my grandma, she is in her 80s and my grandpa is declining fast. And this is the first time in her life, they have been together since they were like 17 years old, that she needed to figure out logins, that like, thank goodness he was still present and able to give her the logins. But imagine not having those.
Oh,
She would have had no idea what to do.
and then learning these things at such an older age, it's like, are you really comprehending it? Do you
Yeah,
know
no.
what things cost? And then there's just so many like scams that target seniors. And, it's
Mhm.
like, don't open that mail or don't take that phone call. You really have to coach her and say, like, if anyone's ever asking you for money, show it to me or send me a
Yep.
picture before you respond, because for the most part, it's probably spam.
Yeah, no, she got a phone call once that my brother was in jail and
Yeah.
she was at least smart enough to say, let me talk to him. And then a
Oh,
kid got
perfect.
on the phone and we call our grandparents. So my grandma was like, nope, and like hung up the phone. But like it was like so good that she knew
Yeah.
to do that because that's how they're scamming them. I just saw like somebody
Mhm.
lost $15,000.
Oh, no. I know. It's bad. And with AI, and
It's
sometimes you don't even know if you're getting like a crank call, but are they trying to just record your voice to then go scam somebody else? You just never know. I don't even answer
so
the phone if
scary.
I don't recognize the number.
Yeah, no, it's so, so scary. Oh my gosh. I can't get over how valuable your conversation was today. I'm going to ask, what is your tip? Either budgeting, mindset, something to leave these mamas.
I would just say you've got to get started. So, whatever it is that you are like, analysis paralysis on, whether that is budgeting or just dealing with the debt or figuring out what your fire number is, it's like you've got to just get started, have a little bit of awareness. And then if you have questions, reach out again, accountability partners, someone you trust, even a group of moms, be
Yeah.
able to be there for one another. So find your little support community, and then the game plan, figuring out how you're going to get there, that will all come in time, but you've got to just take action and get started.
100%. And I'm going to plug in that the Money Hungry Mama Facebook community is up and running. So if you are mamas that need that support and would like to meet like minded women, come join us because Erica and I are in it as well. So you can be a part of it with us. Now, what does being a money hungry mama mean to you?
Oh my goodness. Well, definitely just being able to teach my daughters that entrepreneurship is an option and you don't have to go all in. You can do it, build slowly, whatever works for you, right? And I have seen other mamas that have been laid off or, you know, just things happen, maternity leave, their company downsized. And so they were forced to start a side hustle, which turned into a full time. And so hearing from others and really just being there to support one another. I think that's definitely key. And just finding something you're passionate about. A lot of people have 9 to 5s and they hate their job,
Yeah.
but they can't quit because they need the paycheck, right? So figuring out what skill sets you have, what you're passionate about, and it can start in like a nonprofit environment, volunteering first. I go out and teach financial literacy to different volunteer or nonprofit organizations. And that has like been so fulfilling as well. So just find whatever it is you're passionate about and follow other accounts first, get some inspiration, reach out to people. I've had plenty of people that take my random Instagram DM and I'm like, I love what you're doing. I'd love to see if we can collaborate. That's probably how we connected too.
Yeah.
So just putting yourself out there and being a resource for others, I think is so key.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Building your own little networking
Yeah.
like tree. I love it. And how can our listeners support you?
Yeah. So you can follow me on Instagram. It's at Prosperity Planning. Any questions you have, feel free to DM me. All the links are there. You can purchase the toolkit if you'd like to, really just take charge of your own financial future for your family. And then if you have questions along the way, I personally still answer all the DMs. So I'd love to connect with you. If you have any questions, I'm here to support you.
Erika, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you.